If you clicked on this video, it's either because you're stressed the hell out from having all of your clients, or you haven't gotten to 10K a month yet. And what we're gonna do in this video is teach you or show you some ways that you can get up to 10K. And 10K is just an arbitrary number. It can be 10, 20, 30, 50, whatever the number is for you. But I feel like 10K is a good number that everybody wants to strive towards in the beginning. So if you haven't thought about getting into outsourcing yet, outsourcing is one of the best ways that you can expand your business, take your hands off a little bit, and have more of an owner mindset. Now, owner mindset is something very important that you need to have going into the new web design world as a freelancer. And what you need to do is stop thinking as an individual freelancer and more as a entrepreneur, startup guru, if you want to be called that, right? You need to start thinking more as like a top guy rather than a soldier that works for other people and other, I mean, if you think about that hierarchy, right? You need to start thinking more as a top designer that can manage and can outsource to other smaller designers or less knowledgeable designers, smaller client lists, whatever it is. Another main reason why you need to get into outsourcing is that it can allow you to, one, expand your client list, and two, get your stress off of your shoulders. Now, this is one of the most important things for me. I personally want to live a very stress-free life and have a very chill life, and I'd rather have that than $1 million every single month, but be extremely stressed. So one of the purposes of having an outsourcing system or an outsourcing world is that you can essentially pass on clients to other people, or you can essentially manage the clients and have your designers or your one designer doing the work for you. I'm going to be the first one to say it. There's a few negatives when you do outsourcing. First off, you stop designing more and you start doing more of a managing position. And if you're not comfortable with that, then that's also to consider. But essentially, if you're not able to outsource and to give other people this responsibility of doing these projects, then you're going to be stuck in the driving seat and you won't be able to be more into a managing position. Now, that's one of the most important things for me, is to be able to just manage other designers and not worry too much about what the actual design looks like, because there's plenty of talented designers. The thing that matters the most and the thing that's most important to you and to be able to grow is the client list, how you talk to clients, your systems in place, your design systems, and also the trust that you have with your designers, with your team, whoever it is. Now, having said that, one of the best ways and fastest ways that you can start doing this and start trying out this outsourcing world without diving too deep, without paying someone full time, that's not what we're doing here, is just trialing a few designers. Now, I recommend always, obviously, to do paid trials. And one of the easiest way to do that is have a very repetitive test, something like redesigning the hero of a website. That's a test that I like to do a lot, just so you can start to see and understand the skills of a designer. Now, maybe the skill set is going to be different for you. Maybe you want to try to see if they can write a really great paragraph for your book or a really great illustration for your hero as well. You know, the main point is that you want to have a single task that you can trial over multiple designers and essentially just compare them, right? You have 30 different designs in front of you and you want to see exactly what this person did, what this person did, and what this person did. And a great part about that is that you can, one, start to see the thinking behind them, and two, you can start to see exactly how they would act either under pressure or more under a goal-oriented design. Sometimes when you see designs on Dribbble or in Behance, things like that, it's easy to fall in love with the work that they've done without actually understanding the thought process or the idea management or how they got to that, or if there was a certain need that they needed to, or what the CTA was, you know. So if you give them a certain purpose, like I need this hero to convert sales, or I need this hero to just look really great, well, then you can start to see the different thought processes. There's a couple of different places you can find these designers. Now, number one and number two is very obvious, is Dribbble and Behance, but number three is a less known one, which I like to use, which is Twitter. If you guys haven't followed me already on Twitter, then I'll recommend that you guys go ahead and do that. But Twitter is a great place to find designers, and especially if you're in the Webflow world, there's a huge community of Webflow people in Twitter and on Instagram, things like that. And Twitter is essentially where people like to get together and find out who's a good designer and who isn't. Now, an important thing to do when you actually find your designer is to be able to actually see how they speak and how they can communicate with you. And I recommend you get on a quick, like a 10-minute call or something easy. You don't need to get on a 2-hour call with them, but just to see how their, number one, their English is, how their communication is, their soft skills, if they're easy to get to talk to get along with, if you have good banter with them. That's all important because in the grand scheme of things, if you're going to be working with them, well then it's obviously important to be able to communicate with them and get along, right? So I recommend just like a 5-minute call, honestly, something easy, something simple while you're doing the trial, so you can just see what this person is actually like instead of just on text or on messages or whatever it is. Now I'm talking a lot about what to do after you've found your designers and hiring them and all this stuff, but how can you actually find out how much you need to pay them, right? How can you find out what your budget is for your first outsourcing project? Well, in short, in a nutshell, you need to find out what your cost is to essentially run this project. And if you can find a designer that will do it for under that cost, well then there you go. That's who you need to hire, right? That's the person that you can find that will leave you in some sort of a profit. Now that's essentially in a nutshell. I'm gonna leave a video to a Chris Do mastermind where he covers it in like a 2-hour seminar, but in a nutshell, that's what you need to do. So after you've started outsourcing projects for a while and you've found a team that you can get along with, and or even if it's another designer, just someone to help you with the workload, then you can start to also find people that will do different types of services. Maybe you can find someone that will do SEO, someone that will do photography, someone that will do illustrations, whatever world you're in. You want to start to find other worlds that you can start outsourcing to, because a lot of times a client will come to you and say, especially for a web design project, you'll say, hey, I've done this project for you guys. Do you offer SEO? And you can say, hey, I do offer SEO. Here's a list of the packages that we offer. And essentially you're working with another SEO expert who will do the work for you, but you're the leader of the project. You are the project manager. So you get all the revenue, you get all the income, and then it's your job to essentially distribute that within your outsourcing designers or SEO experts or whoever it is, right? So you can start to offer different services, which is great because you expand your portfolio and you can also give a better service. Now, one of the main things, if you're not ready to start outsourcing, is just simply to start talking to people and to start getting to know people in the space and to start to understand what people might start charging for specific services. So what I use is a very simple matrix like this one right here. And essentially what we have here is 2-axis grid or a simple graph. And on the left side here, we have their skill set. So we go from beginner all the way to legendary. So you can decipher that however you want. If legendary is someone that works at Apple, well then that's your frame, you know, that's your goal. And then we've got cheap and expensive, whatever that may be for you, whether cheap is 100 an hour or expensive is 30 an hour, you know, whatever it is for you, you have these grids that you can now start to plot. And I'll just go on Twitter or Behance or Dribble, whatever it is, and I'll start to talk to people and I'll just start to get in their DMs and I'll say, hey, how much would you charge for a hero redesign or a 1-page design or a 1-page Webflow build or a 1-page metric, you know, whatever the metric is for you, start to ask around what will they charge for that specific thing. And a lot of times people say, I don't charge that much, I charge per day, I charge per project. Well then, okay, now you know what your metric is, right? So once you have your metric, you start to plot down usernames. So you can say username, and then maybe we found a really great legendary designer that turns out to not be that expensive because they work maybe in Southeast Asia or they work in a country that doesn't charge that much. So we can then put his name down, and then we found another one here, and then we found another one here, right? And so what you can start to see is as you build up this matrix of designers, you now know who to go for whenever you get a project that has a certain budget or a certain demand for a skill set. And we can also do this, if I just go ahead and copy this all the way on the right here, paste it here, we can do the same exact thing for maybe illustrators. We can do the same thing here for photographers, right? And what we're doing then is we're building a matrix or we're building a portfolio of people that we can reach out to when certain projects come in. And this is extremely important because one of the benefits of having this is speed. You know exactly who to go for. Oh my God, I have an incredible project. I need the best work possible. There's no expense to be spared here. Okay, well then you go for a legendary guy, or maybe even another guy here who charges more, but because money doesn't matter, then you charge the best of the best of the best. Okay, well then that's who you charge, you know, and that's who you get. One of the easiest ways to start doing something like this is just write a simple message in their Twitter DMs or Dribble or whatever it is, and you say, hey, I'm looking for a designer that will do this. What is your rate or what's your budget? And once they give that to you, you'll be able to start to plot down in your matrix. By the way, if you're looking for your very first project, whether it's with Webflow, web design, product design, whatever it is, I recommend that you go to my job board. So my job board is currently empty. We're going to start populating it soon, but know that this is where people are going to start to get their first jobs, their second jobs. And even if you're an expert, this is where you can find a lot of jobs. So keep an eye out for that in the future. I'll leave links to everything in the description. But in short, what we covered here today is essentially how to grow a very small 1, 2, 3, 4 person agency. And I say agency with quotes because agency is essentially a name that people are scared of and people are look up to with this big name because it's an agency, right? But essentially what an agency is in very short, easy to understand terms is one person decided to outsource and that grew, and that's it. They grew to an accounting team, they grew to a UI team, a product design team, a graphics team, a illustration team, and it just kept growing. And then you get a manager to manage the designers, and now you're the manager of the managers. Well, then that's it. That's all an agency is. And if you can start to increase your reach and you can start to increase the amount of projects that you do just by outsourcing, just by talking to someone and saying, can you do this for under what I'm charging? Yes. Okay, there you go. That's an agency. You've started. Congratulations. So if you want to get started with this agency or outsourcing all the way up to this big 10K milestone a month, well then start to do this exact thing. Start to get names, start to understand what people are charging and what you can make as a profit. And as that grows, as your client list grows, well then you'll start to earn more money in the long term. So if you guys enjoyed this kind of video, it's very different than what I'm used to making on the channel. But if you guys liked it and enjoyed it, make sure you let me know in the comments. Also go follow my Twitter and my Instagram, because that's where you can get to know me more personally and see updates of the channel and me and everything else that has to do with me. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.